Ladies, it's time to get smoke show hot. Are you ready? I'm ready. My name is Lauren Saracione. I have completely changed the game in the health and fitness space, the aesthetic space, as well as the spiritual industry. I am totally revolutionizing how you expand your soul and how you do it through aesthetics, which means you close the spectrum of the body of your dreams and the life that supports your dreams because you create the life of your dreams that's going to support your dream body, the holy grail, the lifestyle approach to your health and fitness goals. But I'm doing it on such a deeper, more profound level because I am teaching you how to integrate your inner child, and I'm teaching you how to integrate your natal chart and your human design so that you can really get objective on some of the experiences that may have caused frozen emotions in your body, that cause the subconscious limiting beliefs, that cause ghosting your habits and sabotaging your results. So this is a totally new way to do things, and it is right on time. And today I'm excited to share with you about the revolutionary transits because, as you know, we are in a time of great change, and I have some insights that are going to be really helpful for you to navigate the turn of not the century, but the turn of civilization. We are actually coming into a new time that we're kind of like racing to February of 2026, and I'll explain that in a second. I brought out my treats, so I wanted to show you. This is like partially eaten chocolates in a box. And then I have a fresh bag of seized butterscotch squares. And then I have double milk double caramels from C's. And then from the cookie bar at Whole Foods, I have a whole bunch of chopped up cookies that I keep in the refrigerator. Last time I bought cookies at the cookie bar, they were in the fridge for over a month. And I'm sharing this with you because I am unlike other aesthetic, goal-oriented fitness coaches out there, because I actually encourage you to eat the foods that you love. And if you are someone who is a chronic dieter and you yo-yo diet and you end up binging, I actually have you do conscious binges where you journal the onset of the emotions of the urge of when you want to totally submerge yourself in food. And then I also have you journal while you're in your binge, and then journal again after your binge, because that's usually when all of the really mean words start to come out of your head. And it's just stuff that you learned from childhood or whenever you were bullied at any type of age. So I wanted to share that with you because if you join the PHAT Life, you do not have to give up all your favorite foods. Okay, so let's get into this with the revolutionary transits. Number one, this is not spiritually bypassing. When people talk about a time of great change that includes suffering, a lot of people will get criticism because other people will say, you're spiritually bypassing, you're not paying attention to the suffering that's in the world. This is not that, because I'm actually driven by the suffering in the world, and I am driven by my broken heart, and I have just been able to get past the angry part where I lash out and I'm not disciplined in my message. But I am doing this because of the suffering in the world and the ways that I know that I can be a productive person in the collective. So what I want to share with you is that we're having all of these like evolutionary changes with the old power structures, but also with our old beliefs. And this is where it comes into the PHAT Life and how it's going to directly impact you. If we zoom out and we look back at 2020, at 2016, at 2012, we have these 4-year intervals, right? The United States is a very influential player on the world forum. And so if we look at the political structure of the United States, where there's one bird, two wings, a right and a left, but we zoom out really far and we actually notice that a lot of the legislature that gets passed has been put into motion, no matter if it was a red president or a blue president. And a really good example of this is Obamacare, that it first went into motion with a Republican president, but when it was actually put into into law, it was under a Democratic president. So it actually doesn't matter who is in the front line. The government is going to be operating in a way that keeps them in power and us disempowered and more suppressed. So the front line is just there for us to be divided within each other so that we don't notice how we're actually being suppressed. And if you do your work and you look through different structures in the world, especially with slavery, you really find out that this is an infrastructure that has been used over and over and over again when you have people in charge of the collective. So as we're watching this, and we can just go back to 2020, we can notice that a lot of us had the experience that a lot of people are having right now, where a lot of people are really upset about what is happening because of the president. I am saying air quotes because it's probably not necessarily him. It's probably just the underbelly of how the system works. So why I'm sharing this with you is because a lot of us in 2020 had, we're shaking in our boots. Like we were super scared because of the thing that we were supposed to get. And for a lot of us that saw the red flags of how entertainment and how sporting events could all be taking place, how our government officials were still allowed to gather in groups and even keep their restaurants and businesses open, but the regular guy wasn't, that strip clubs were able to stay open, but a regular mom and pop shop wasn't. If you actually zoom out, and if you at that time had zoomed out and seen how like all these other things were able to happen that were highly profitable, that really enhanced the people who were already wealthy and further disenfranchised the community, then you were able to really see how the thing was rolled out. Oh wait, Meta isn't censoring anymore, I heard, but they probably are. So anyway, the thing, we all know what the thing is. So as the thing was rolled out, it was put into different demographics for the testing. And I actually have a video on my phone of Obama at a podium talking about how great it was that they rolled out the biggest experiment in world history. And I was like, yeah, without informed consent. Nobody got to know what was in the ingredients. Nobody got to know the side effects. The people were the experiment. And if you were someone like me and you scoured the internet for something that wasn't mainstream, you actually heard from doctors who lost their licenses, who lost their licenses, lost their livelihood. Some of them even lost their lives because they were being presented as sharing misinformation, when really science and medicine is all about trial and error. First, do no harm, but that didn't matter. But also that nothing is concrete, right? It's evolutionary. And so because people did not have a choice of what they were injecting into their body that was experimental, for a lot of us, that's when we had the terror. And for a lot of us, when we were able to see that the red president at the time said, decentralize, whatever the states want to do, the states can operate however they want within the thing. So then we were able to see where there were red states where they still had their rights, and then the blue states where they were losing their jobs, not having any income. They were being forced to get this thing injected into them. And so from that perspective alone, allowed some of us to really pop out of the matrix and be like, wow, now we can really see who wants to keep people suppressed and who wants to let things evolve. So for a lot of us then at that time, when we got the blue president that was on board with the agenda to say, you have to get this thing in your body, a lot of us went through the fear that so many people are going through now. And so that was my story. And I went through my awakening of really seeing how the world structures are designed that take us away from our innate power within. So long story short, 5 years later, what I'm sharing with you is not everything, but like so many of the things that I learned with astrology. And if we look at the astrology, we can actually map out different times in history where the astrological placements of the planets were moving in the sky and what they represented for the collective. And each time we look at these planetary transits, we can actually see how civilization changed with its belief in God. And so I have gone all the way back to way BC, where the idea of the entire creation was actually just from the ocean, and that the ocean was the real womb of the mother, where there wasn't any sexes of a male and female organism to create a new species, that the species just evolved and created on its own because of polarized energy. So as we're having this like foundational idea in primitive cultures way, way, way long ago that God is actually feminine, because it is through the feminine body that another human or another part of the species is going to come out of, that God was considered feminine. And then when we look at different eras of time that last 2,160 years, where we have certain aspects where a lot of the energy is focused in Aries, in Taurus, in Pisces, right now where we're going into Aries or into Aquarius, what we find out is a different belief in God that removes feminine from the entire existence. And you cannot make anything out of two positives and two negatives. You need a positive and a negative. You need the experience to actually have something happen. So as I've been looking at all these different changes of civilization based on how the planets move, we can actually map out how we have believed in God, which for the most part, if the belief in God did not include a feminine deity, it was designed to keep us suppressed and designed on a warrior mentality that was about force, was about taking over, was about conquest. And as we've gone through the ages, then the feminine, the symbology of a feminine person, of a female person, we became suppressed. The witch hunts lasted for 300 years. And so when I'm looking at all these astrological transits, and the reason why I'm getting so excited about it is because we are in the opportunity of the divine feminine coming back. And so we're actually able to access some of this primordial energy about a positive and a negative Godhead, all encompassing of what creation actually is within the energies of positive polarity and negative polarity, which we have in ourselves. And the reason why I go so deep with this and I'm so excited about this is because we can either go through the experience that we're having right now and hold on to the old beliefs, which is the same exact thing that everybody is angry about the superpowers for trying to stay with what they want, right? Like we could be really pissed off for what Trump is putting into law, and we could have been really pissed off with what Biden put into law. Either way, if we're angry about how the powers are trying to hold on to old systems, if we don't transition and we don't actually start acting the way we believe, that we do feel a connection, that we do want to feel good, we do want to feel empowered, we do feel like there's a purpose to life, and we do feel like there should be equality, if we're not able to get past the fighting, then we're just going to sink as the energy shifts, because the energy is going to shift no matter what with these transits. So we could either get on board with the flow and follow what the new age is going to be, which is a lot of AI and a lot of technology and actually being ruled by an algorithm. Okay, you can look at Star Trek for the Borgs to see like the scary scenario. You can take a look at Elon with what he's doing and how his grandpa was a technocrat, where they want to create Canada, America, and Mexico as the technocratic state, where we don't have political leaders anymore, that we have representatives based on a technological algorithm, which we can see that happening already. So what I'm sharing with you is that these planets that are going to transform our society no matter what, and whoever is in the front line of the world powers, they're going to be doing whatever it is that they want to do to make sure that there is still a power dynamic where we don't have the power. And so we can use these planets to actually access our inner work in a more profound way. And the reason why this is so important is because if we're stepping into a time where the transits are going to have a feminine planet, Neptune, into a masculine placement in Aries, we are going to be able to put the feminine, the divine feminine, back into the earth, back into the embodiment. And that's the feminine power and leadership that we all have access to on an exponential level. But the only way that we're going to do that is if we go inside and we actually start working on the subconscious beliefs and the unconscious emotions that are stored in our body. And that's why the PHAT Life is so powerful, because I'm taking you back into all of the times that you have downloaded the information that you're too much. That is the old era of a male external deity that came in with an astrological transit years, over 2,000 years ago, that replaced the overarching God is female, because female is where we create from. That is how we birth a new reality. So if we actually take a step back and we're like, wow, some of the reasons why I'm too much, some of the reasons why I suppress myself, some of the reasons why I restrict from letting myself eat the food that I want, I restrict how I express myself. If we actually go through and we have a checklist of like, how are the ways that I am dimming my light and suppressing myself, it's actually coming from the overarching structure of civilizations, but then just gets passed on through the human conditioning. So now that we have Neptune, that is a feminine planet, it's going to allow us to access who we are on the mystical feminine level, where we can really create something magical and exquisite for ourselves. And every time that we change the collective. And that means even though the transits are going to put us into the technology age of AI and robotics, we can still hold on to our humanity. If we take a look at the ways that we have felt not good enough, it's another way that we have been suppressed with the idea from another transit with Aries that God is external and God is only male. So every time we come into ourselves and we say, okay, so where do I feel that I'm not good enough? Where do I feel like I'm not living up to some external potential? Where am I not fitting the mold that was in the marketing industry back in the 50s and 60s? Like a lot of the times whenever we in the fitness space would talk about how we have this poor body image and this body dysmorphia, a lot of the times, if you don't include the astrology, coaches will just talk about how the marketing messages that we've had as a woman, with all of the advertisements, we had to be skinny, we had to keep quiet, we were given drugs to keep quiet, not have an opinion, we weren't allowed to have any type of expression other than wife and mother. So a lot of the times when we would get coaching around our body image and we would only look at it from the cultural perspective, we would just say, oh, it started in the 30s, it started in the 40s when diet culture happened and it was mostly men that were running the ad agencies. It's the men, they're the problem. But that's not exactly it. It's coming from the underlying belief based on these collective transits that then becomes like a copy of a copy of a copy and just gets worse and worse. And we get less and less humanized as a woman and in our body, and we get less disenfranchised. We get more disenfranchised with the experience of life because it gets so hard because the world powers are able to keep us suppressed. So we can look at this from the perspective of, I don't like what's going on in the world. It's really stressing me out. I don't like how I feel about my body. It's really stressing me out. And the energy that we have access to right now is going to help us accelerate our own inner growth so that we can create a movement and a society that is for humanity first, not algorithm first, and where we can make the decisions for our body that's about us first and not some potential or some way that we're supposed to be living up to. So this is the power that we have of these transits, and these transits are lasting mostly through 2038. And is that right? I believe they're mostly lasting through 2038, even though we have Pluto in Aquarius through 2044. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, and he really helps, this energy really helps build new societies. And because we're in Aquarius, now this is the time where we're able to have access through energy, through the currents of flow of energy, that we are really going to be able to individuate from what was the former society, right? You know, it's changing. You can see it everywhere. It's changing. It's changing because it's astrological and it's a time. Like, get out of the experience for just a second and remember when you read books in history about when civilizations come and go. We're in it. We are alive for it right now. This is the most incredible thing in the world. So what I want to share with you is that there's a couple of big planets that are going to be making some big moves. And so I just want to go over them really briefly with you. This is stuff that I help you with in the PHAT Life also, and I'll tell you a little bit about that more. So Saturn and Neptune and Aries, we're going to be able to heal self-sabotage at the root. So Saturn is like the father figure in a certain way in some of the mythology. And then, like I was saying, Neptune is a feminine planet. And when we're in Aries, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And so that's our go energy. That is our fire. I'm an Aries rising. I'm a Pisces sun. So I feel all this mystical stuff and I can see behind the veil, but in my forefront, I'm like, go, 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 right? Like you can experience that with me. So when we have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, this is a time where we really get to rebirth ourselves, because the inner child work that we have to do if we're going to get out of the negative state that causes the ghosting of our habits necessary for our dream body, if we're going to reparent ourselves to stop the sabotage that we do when we undo our progress through whatever it is that you're doing, what we get to do then is we get to use these planets in the go energy. So we're going to have more discipline and structure so that we can actually let the emotions process. And that's part of the PHAT Life, where we're really looking at the structure of your exercise. That if you commit to exercising just 1 day a week, then you are acting as the disciplinarian and really giving yourself a train track to run on, so that when emotions come up, you don't let yourself sink into the abyss of the not enoughness, because you immediately have a checklist to say, I did do enough. I followed through on that one commitment. You're allowed to work out more than 1 day a week, but we take this masculine energy and say, we're just going to make the minimum commitments and you're going to do those. So that way you build the confidence to do more and more, and you have space for your emotions to expand. So with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, it's like you have these divine cosmic parents that are going to help you move forward with your life. And it's going to be just absolutely fantastic. Okay, then we have Uranus and Gemini, and this is going to unlock your limitless self-expression and confidence. So Uranus is like a rebellious planet, and Gemini is like the doors of the universe and also represents duality. So if we're going to rebel against the last civilization that keeps us suppressed and wants to keep us suppressed by putting us all into rule of a computer, of an algorithm, no, we have to keep our humanity. We have to actually say, like, what do all these planets represent, and how can we actually create a balance of feminine and masculine energetics in our life? No more patriarchy, no more matriarchy, but an actual balance where there is work and there's play, where there's push and there's release, so that we can actually be back in more of a balance with nature, even though the technological age is not going to not happen. Like, we can't prevent AI. We can't prevent the evolution of technology, but we can work within ourselves, since we are the organic beings, to actually keep some of the organics on the planet and use technology to our benefit. Then we have the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, and this is going to help us dissolve perfectionism and rewrite your body's identity. So when we have the North Node as a collective, that is where all of society is going. That's where all of the energy is like going through our body and our brains, where we're thinking in different ways, we're feeling in different ways, and we have a different perspective. And sometimes a lot of shit comes up. And Pisces is like all of the energy of the zodiac. It's all 12 signs. It's very mystical. It's full of illusion. It's spirituality. Religion's birth from the Pisces placement. So what happens is, as we're in Pisces, and it's also the unconscious, we're moving into the unconscious. We're moving into the collective world shadow. So if you don't like slavery, if you don't like the idea that anybody is illegal, if you don't like that there was 300 years of witch hunts where women were sought out and murdered and genocided, and that's actually part of what caused colonization, to where we had a bunch of the white guys come over indigenous cultures, like our suffering is so much because of what happened with the feminine godhead as part of creation, and as part of God being within us, and then also just being a woman. So when we're going into the North Node, we're going to be seeing a whole bunch of stuff coming out in the media, especially because of that Gemini placement. Have you even noticed that Google has a Gemini app? They know. Everybody knows about these placements. Look at what the technology says. So the South Node is where we're moving away from, but the South Node is where we have all the wisdom. And Virgo is also the virgin birth, where we get to birth our reality from our consciousness alone, not from a sperm and an egg. So we have all this amazing mythology and all of this spiritual stuff that has been put into religions and put into the virgin birth of Mary and Jesus. But it's also it started as what is a description of what our experience is being a human. And with how the things changed with societies, it became a literal translation that furthered our disempowerment by putting God outside of ourselves instead of us being innately worthy and connected to it, whatever it is. So when we have the North Node in Pisces, we're going into the underbelly of the collective consciousness. We are going to be walking through a swamp. But what we can do is use that Virgo energy that sometimes people say is perfectionist and needing to be right and needing to have everything perfect. Perfectionism, perfect, duh. We get to use this for ourselves to use some discipline and some structure, which I created in the PHAT Life. Like you have check-in forms for every single week. I give you a Google form that you fill out information so that I know what's coming up for you in your inner work so that I can coach you every step of the way, every single week. So I'm using the Virgo energy of organization to facilitate you going into this North Node of Pisces so that you can accelerate your growth and your inner child worth so that you can really get more and more integrated. The last one is Pluto and Aquarius, and this is where we get to step into your most untouchable magnetic self. So what's really cool about Aquarius is there's so much symbology, right? But Aquarius, some will say that this is the time where we create a direct connection to God itself. So like the age of Pisces is where we had the Abrahamic religions, where we had a male savior figure with Islam, Judaism, and with Christianity. So now that that time is over, we get to question the beliefs of, is God actually an external human? I mean, doesn't that just sound crazy? Is God an external human? Was there only one God? So like only Jesus in Christianity, only, oh shoot, I forgot their other names, but you get my point, right? So like we get to go into this new age. And if you look at Aquarius, how it's pouring out of a pitcher and it has lines, some will say that the lines are actually representing your direct connection to source energy, your direct connection to God. And so we get to individuate as a being to say, yeah, all this manifestation stuff that we've been talking about from Abraham Hicks for the last 30, 40 years, that's actually true. I am the creator of my own reality, but I'm also part of the creator. And so then this way, we actually start to see like, wow, like based on my astrology, what do I actually believe about God? What do I actually believe about the experience of life? Because as you know, if you look back, right, like we got to keep zooming out that there is so much war and there is so much property, land acquisition under the guise of religion, under the guise that this God is the real God, not that God. And we're entitled because we believe in this God, and you are bad because you don't believe in this God. Like it doesn't make sense. So as we're moving through these transits and as our beliefs are going to be coming up to the surface, we can either latch on and hold on to what we believed before and then be really triggered and be really upset about what's happening in the world. And we could really be upset about the little questions that are going to start to come up in the back of your mind of like, what is this? Because they're going to come, because these transits are energy. Energy is a frequency that moves through the air, just like your Wi-Fi on your phone or on your computer. So you're going to start to intercept these frequencies anyway, and it's up to you. Are you going to hold on to what was? Are you going to hold on to thinking that somebody in a presidential seat is going to be the one that's going to save you or dismantle you? Like, how are you going to go through this? And if you are not physically or financially affected by what's going on right now, now is the time for you to really do your inner work, because you may find out how you're actually, especially if you're a woman, going to be able to step into leadership as the feminine energy is able to come back into our experience on a more substantial level. So you guys, this is just so incredible. So I'm really excited about it, obviously. So let me tell you about the PHAT Life. The PHAT Life, I just opened up a gamified coaching version of it where it's $49 a month. You get access to all the training material. I am in there Tuesday through Friday to coach you on the wall. There's a wall and it's categorized so that you can keep things organized by topic. And there is a leaderboard that will keep track of your participation in the group. So every single month, you get a chance to win a group coaching call. If you decide to do the community coaching, that means that we're having a coaching call every single week. And so then you get more support from me because we'll meet together face to face on Zoom once a week. If you want really high level support and you want to be interacting with me outside of the coaching calls, we have our Telegram that's Tuesdays through Friday, and you get everything in the school platform of all of the modules, all of the community, and as a bonus, you get to show up to the weekly calls of the community coaching. But then you also get two coaching calls a month so that you and I can really dive deep. So I'm really excited about this because this is so good for us. This is so good for the world. And this is really the time that we get to step into our feminine magnetic power, no matter how greasy and sweaty we look. Okay, goodbye.